This is a beautiful Thanksgiving day. I came here in the morning to get those tires on. With a rude awakening, one of the other tires had blown out. Tire wasn't in very good shape, and just sitting out here, it just ruptured on the side. And I got the two ones that I fixed, and this is the one that ruptured on the side right there. So I got to fix this tire and put it back here on the back, and I swapped it out because I wanted the two fronts still on, and since I have to work in this area, I figured I'd just leave a tire off. It makes it easier for me to get in here. So that's going to be it for getting the tires and everything done. So the next thing I'm going to do on this machine is to get it running. I'm back, and this is another beautiful Thanksgiving. This is later on in the day. Come back, and I gonna start to see if I can get this thing running. I started to check the oil looks okay. I haven't yet been able to check the transmission fluid or the hydraulic. The fuel tank looks clean, but I noticed that the fuel line going to the injector pump was off. And here we have right here, this is the filter. This line goes down to the pump, to the injector pump. So I'm going to take this line off, make sure it's all clean, make sure there's no material in here, and then I think what I'll do is I'll hook up a line just to a diesel can and bypass everything else and just see if I can start it off with a little tank. So first thing to do is get this line off. I've already broken it free. So, well, I've been through a few things. I found that somebody had drained out the coolant. I had to put a new plug down at the bottom. Got that done. And I got my little temporary diesel fuel tank going right to the line to the injector pump. So we know we'll have fuel there. It seems like a lot of the linkages are no longer functional. So I've got everything sort of basically where it's at. I might have to move the throttle cable a little bit because I found that somebody had used this wire as a throttle. Yeah, that's like really, really good. So got the batteries hooked up, and let's see if we can get it started. That's a good sign. At least it's firing a little bit, so I think I can need to get fuel on the throttle. I can't tell. I wedged a piece of wood on the throttle. Let's see if that gives it. It's a little bit concerning that it fired there for a minute, but then stopped. Going directly into the injector pump. Well, I'm going to dump some more fuel down inside the tube and see what I can do, but this is going to need some work. Well, that was silly. What I thought was actually the line going in is a return line from the pump. I only realized when I put it out and noticed that when I cranked the engine, it started spewing diesel out at a certain point. So I've got the wrong line, which means I've got to go and grab this other line over here and take it off. So this is a return line to return back. This is the line, apparently, which is the fill line. So I've got to put the fuel in there, not on this side. So that's going to take a little bit more work. Well, after trying several times, I did find that there was a major problem with the fuel lines going to the pump. And the main feed line back here had an old seal and it was not working at all. So I had to replace the entire fitting there. And this fitting looks okay. I had to take it out in order to get to the one back there, but hopefully that'll be enough that this thing will be able to run fuel through it now. So I just got to get everything hooked back up, and then we'll try starting it again. Well, I started spinning and it was doing absolutely nothing. And I checked underneath and somehow I'd accidentally pulled the emergency shut off. So I heard it barf for a second, so let's see if it'll start now. that was pretty sweet. It started running. I just noticed that this filter down here is leaking. Now once it started to turn on, and my levers are frozen, and this thing is like leaning to the side, and I want to straighten it up. So the levers are froze, so I got to work those free, and then we'll start it back up and try to get this thing level, and see about turning the steering wheel to get the wheels straightened. So that's awesome. The engine runs. So now all we have to do is get some of the levers and some of the linkages, like the control linkages. They're all frozen. Some of them are missing parts because people haven't worked on them, and just like jerry rig stuff. So that's totally awesome that we actually got something operating. But I now need to check the rest of the fuel system to see if I can close it up and put fuel in the tank. But the biggest issue was that line in the back was just a little bit leaking, and I just noticed here the other old fitting seems to be leaking slightly. I may have to replace that one. More of an update for the RT6000 forklift. You can see it here. We've actually had it running. I did all that work before, and the issue is I couldn't get it to move forward and backwards. However, found out that the transmission was completely empty, so I filled it up. Got it filled up. I used a tractor fluid, which will work for this, and I went and started it up. This little story was 2 nights ago. It was late after work when I decided to do this, and so I went up, got on top to start it up, and the engine was seized. And I'm trying to figure out what I ran it the other day. Everybody saw it on the video. I started it up, but thinking back in my head, I remember after running it, I pressure washed the engine really good to clean off some other areas to work on, and it froze that night. So I was thinking some material, some water got in, maybe bell housing or whatever, and froze up and seized the engine. So I got a heater, a diesel heater with that we run here at the shop to heat up the shop when it gets too cold, and it uses a 110 cord, and I had it all hooked up right here on one side. I put cardboard around it, heated up the engine, and while it was heating up, after about 40 minutes, I go and decide to try to start it up, and it starts right up. And at this point, it's pitch dark outside, and my headlamp was it's just the batteries were almost dead. And so I start grabbing the cardboard, and then I run all the way across over to the dumpster there to throw the cardboard away. We have a recycle, but we also have just regular garbage there. And when I came back, this forklift had crawled its way about here. And what you don't see, Dave's really nice semi truck was parked right here, and this little puppy wanted to meet Dave's semi truck. So as the story goes, I'm wondering, oh, it's probably rolled, because when it's off it can roll, and that's why I have blocks underneath it. Does have an emergency brake, which I just now barely got to work a little bit. So I grab a block of wood, put it under the wheel. Didn't stop it. It went right over that block. The engine's just idling away, slowly moving like an inch a second, well, maybe a couple inches a second, towards Dave's truck. So then I hop up to try to push the lever, because I was almost certain it was in neutral to begin with. It shouldn't have started if it wasn't in neutral. So I tried to get it in forward. Unfortunately, like I said, it had frozen and the linkage and everything was covered in ice. I couldn't change it. So now I'm still heading towards Dave's truck. So then I get up and I try to turn the steering wheel, but we have an issue with no power going to the power steering. So I'm forcing it and cranking the wheel, and the truck comes right up beside Dave's truck, and the back wheel, which is this wheel right here, came to rest on Dave's wheel on his truck. And this back section was quite literally, I would think, basically only a paper width thick from his fender. And by the time and that stopped it tried to push the truck a little bit, but stopped. And since it stopped moving, now this is pitch dark, then I had to get up underneath here, get my arm back around here, and I shut the forklift off. So lucky I did not do any damage to Dave's truck. So that was a good thing. So after a little bit more working, I freed up the linkage and got it into forward, where I thought was neutral and could get to forward. Restarted up the forklift and had put some blocks down and drove them up over the blocks and then parked it here. So this forklift wants to move, and I'm impressed on idle that it went and walked over the blocks. I did not expect that to happen. So one of the big things we have now is why the steering doesn't work. And there's a fender here I've taken off, and right here is the steering gearbox unit, and right here is the hydraulic control valves. Now we did a test to the pressure going off to the front cylinder, and we're only getting 200 psi max on forcing it hard, and it should be like 2,000 or more. So we're not sure what's going on here. However, I have noticed that somebody has taken this apart and the bottom of the gearbox apart at some time. So I'm gonna have to take this probably take these 4 bolts off and pull it out and see if the control mechanism to operate the hydraulics is working. Other than that, I'd also have to get some additional fittings or whatever and check to make sure that there's pressure getting here, which I probably could do initially before taking this off to make sure I've got pressure here. But there's pressure to the rest of the hydraulic system, and this runs off the hydraulic system, but there's also a couple check valves in the system that maybe it's not getting the full power to it. Now, after lots and lots of research on the internet, I've basically come up with nothing on this piece of equipment. There's a 10,000 pound model that there's tons of stuff on, TMs on, but I cannot find any TMs or anything about it. However, I did look at one of the numbers on the gearbox itself. Let me grab that. And that number down there, that HPS 71415. After looking at that, Pettibone made that, plus it looks like about 3 other manufacturers. I was able to track down a national and NSN number for it, and the NSN number references back to an assembly for a unit that includes the steering wheel, the column, the gearbox assembly. I'm not sure if this is included, but I think this is included in it right here, the hydraulic part. And it also includes this arm right here. And interesting enough, just out of curiosity, I found that there's apparently a company or two that actually has these in stock. which really surprised me. I figure all this stuff would have been scrapped a long time ago, since these units basically do not exist anymore. The only people that have these are like just regular people that got a hold of them and never had them scrapped. So unfortunately, when I checked what the price was, their price is at this moment beyond me. But so one of the big things is if I could find like the whole new assembly for a good price, I would do that. Otherwise, I am going to start having to tear into this and figure out what's going on. There is a slim chance that maybe I'm not getting hydraulic pressure to this. I really doubt that. I have fittings for these number 8s, but these larger size, I have to check to see if I got the fittings so I can see what's going on here. But other than that, if this has got the full pressure coming here, then the issue is this assembly right here, whether it's in the column that activates the hydraulics or it isn't. So but one thing's nice, taking the fender off opens this whole area up. There's also another box in the steering, which is back deep inside there, which I can see when I take this off easier, this floor. But it is the control mechanism for 2-wheel, 4-wheel, and crab steering. So I don't know, it looks like one of the let's see, nope, both of these lines, there's a pressure, some sort of pressure valve or regulator down there, or something, bypass. So really, I guess the next thing really is to check to see if I've got pressure coming up here, because I definitely know that I was only getting out of the lines going to the Ram 200, and that should be in the thousands. So, well, let's run in. I'll show you what I did to the fender. Well, we're in the shop, and here's the fender. Now, since I had to take it off to get to the steering, I figured I might as well go through and fix all the issues on this. And I spray painted it just real quick, just so it doesn't rust. I plan on painting it better later. But this whole metal was folded around let's see, yeah, about 360 degrees, actually a little more, probably almost like 420 degrees of a rotation, and it was crumpled. I had to come in here and re-weld cracks. We had cracks all around through here. This was all ripped out, all pulled out here, cracked up, and it had been pulled, so I had to re-weld on the corners. So I got this all basically ready to go back on. It's not super pretty. I did take off the pieces that latch it down because both of them are broke, so I'm gonna track down some replacements. And I'm going to track down a new light. I've got to get the light working. So that's about where we are now on the forklift. So I don't know if I'm gonna get to much more on it in the next day or two. We've had some pretty bad weather, and the hard part is with no steering, makes it very difficult for me to get the forklift inside to work on. If I can get the steering to work on it, I can then do a lot of the little work to it much easier inside where it's nice and warm. Otherwise, when it's freezing, it's just impossible to work out here. And which is interesting, it was frozen and icy here this morning, but thanks to the sun that we just have, it's warmed up enough, and we got a lot of the snow is melting. So still got some snow up here. Get it off so when I'm working coming out, I won't have to get all frozen. So, well, that's the last of the update for the forklift, and thanks everyone for watching. It's been real experience with this machine, has a little bit of a mind of its own. Wanted to meet Sparks' truck and give it a kiss, but just that far. Thanks, and everyone have an awesome evening.